Hi guys, and welcome to this one. So we're looking at Cubase Pro for this one. Now I have quite a lot of love for Cubase. It was one of the first DAWs that I started using when I started out during what year was that? 96 to 1996, something like that. And I started on it's going back. It was Cubasis probably. It was very basic. When I started, it didn't even have audio, and they've developed it over time, and it's a great stable piece of kit. I have my issues with Cubase. And one of them is from a financial point of view, and as a school, finances are everything, and as somebody that has to deal with budgets year in year out, and the first year, what tends to happen when you start music tech, you get loads of money thrown at you and you can buy stuff. And if you make good decisions, that's fantastic. If you make bad decisions, well, they're going to hit you head on a bit later on. Now, Cubase was always a great decision. We started off on a PC based system, and the reason I went down the Cubase route is said, right, eventually I probably will go Mac. Mac at the time when I started teaching was 2005, something like that. It, Mac were the kind of dominant. We just couldn't afford it in our budget to go down that, so we went a heavy spec PC and we went Cubase. And I always thought to myself, right, if we go Mac, we can, we won't have to purchase Cubase again, which is great. The one thing that I was side blinded by, if you like, is the upgrade policies, which have never changed. In actual fact, they've only got more expensive. And upgrading for me was always a 2 year thing, and for 20 computers, it was working out about £4,000 every 2 years. And you really do have to upgrade. Is no ifs or buts. Is things are put into place that break, and it's not always Cubase's fault. Sometimes it's about the upgrades. So if you started on Windows XP, which I think was the standard we were on back then, and then it went to Windows 7, and then it went to Windows 10 or whatever it was, and every time a new version of Windows, something would break. So you would have to upgrade your software in order for it to be stable. So you always need to make sure that you thought ahead, and I always put together a 5 and 10 year plan, and that was the bit that was always killing me from kind of upgrading lots of stuff. So after about 6 or 7 years of running Cubase and having to upgrade it several times, we left Cubase at Cubase 6 and we moved over to Logic Pro 9. And then after a couple of years, we started finding actually I've got £4,000 in my budget that I haven't spent because I haven't had to upgrade, and we've kind of accounted and we've kind of made money back. So then we could start buying new leads, new microphones, new equipment. And I said in the last video that we actually, because we didn't have to buy the upgrade, I bought a vocal booth. So I sat the vocal booth inside of my lab. So rather than all of my students having to go upstairs and go into the studio every time they want to do a vocal overdub or just a small piece of audio, they could go in my kind of 2x4 vocal booth. And the only thing the vocal booth couldn't record was the main drum parts. Everything else I could just patch them into any computer and they could go there. It saved me loads of time, and it was brilliant. And it is brilliant. So this is one area. It's this upgrade that I have a massive problem with. But let's go through, because it is a fantastic DAW, and if you have your 5 or 10 year plan in place and you have the money for it, it's a viable option. So let's go and have a little look. So here's the main Cubase page. And if we hit the Cubase Pro, now you do have multiple versions. You have the Artist, which is a scaled back version. You have the Elements, which is also a scaled back version. For my money, running music tech at A level, I would never do anything but the Pro version. So stick with the Pro version if you're going to go down the Cubase route, and you'll have a fully functional kind of DAW. Now, the first thing that my students find hard to get to grips with is these kind of dockable areas, and this was Cubase 6 where you'd have the floating navigation bar. But as you can see from this image in front of us, now all of the bars are kind of very much docked, and they've kind of taken this into account, and everything's docked and it kind of works a lot better. So in terms of ease of use, that will make it a lot easier for a student to kind of manage. you always used to have these floating areas, and a lot of these floating areas are now docked in this bottom section here. So you have editors where you can switch between, much like Ableton, Bitwig, Logic Pro have already done for years. The good thing about Cubase is you can put it across multiple screens very, very easy. You undock your areas and you can have a mixer on one screen, you can have your arrangement view in another screen, you can have your plugins in another screen, or whatever, or your live window. Because one thing Cubase does very well is if you're working with other Cubase users, you can actually live link to their studio and get them to record a part into yours very, very easily, which is great. You're not allowed to do that for Music Tech, of course, because everything has to be done on site, so just keep that in mind. So going through, you can't beat Cubase's audio functionality. It has one of the most powerful vari audios that you'll ever find. So you've got Melodyne, you've got Flex, which is the Logic Pro's version. But Vari Audio is, in my opinion, the very best. It's fantastic and it's so powerful and it's clean and it's functional and it's absolutely great. And the audio capacities in Cubase, they're second to none. They really are great. The mixer view is so powerful. You can have like an analog kind of demo or presentation screen, or you can go for this kind of very simple one. But it is literally, yeah, there's very, you can do everything with it really. And it has powerful mastering tools as well, which is great. The stand-in plugins, now a lot of the plugins are great. They are great, and the EQs, the compressors, they're top of the line. But this is where we kind of part ways, and this is another thing that I kind of don't like Cubase for, is they don't give you the full-blown Hallion, which is the sampler. They don't give you that. You have to buy that, and I'll show you how you can buy that in a second. And they don't give you like full versions of their grand piano, and they don't give you full versions of their Groove Agent, which is their drum machine. And they are so the cut down versions are fine, but they're not as good as the real versions. And I just think, in actual fact, if you're going to try and sell me something for the price of Cubase, I want those built into it. There's no ifs or buts. I don't want to have to buy them, because when we were running Cubase, we bought Hallion, we bought Groove Agent, because you just need them. As a student, you need to show them what the full functions are. You need to show the students what the full functions are, and to not have them, just to have like Hallion Sonic, which is great, or Hypersonic, which was there, we bought that as well. It starts to get very, very pricey, and this is the number one factor which will turn most schools off of delivering music tech. It's how much it costs. And because traditionally Cubase is the first platform that everyone looks at, because it works on Mac and it works on PC. So if you've got two labs, one running Mac, one running PC, you can work across them. So everyone goes, yeah, this is the one, I can get it working across. It's great. But then the costs really do start to mount up, and it's one thing you've got to be very aware of if you go down this route, is it's not the cheapest option in the short term or the long term, but it is powerful. This window here is their new kind of chord view, and their chord views are fantastic, and arranging chords. So when it comes to your creativity, there's so much there that you can do, and it's powerful. And this is their live screen, where you can hook up to another musician anywhere in the world, and the latency between the players and the actual your studio and their studio is locked in, so there is none, and you'll get perfect sync every single time. So that's it in a nutshell, and it will do your creative. So it will do your synths, your samplers, your MIDI, your audio, your effects, your reverbs, your delays, your exporting to pretty much any format. It will do all of that. I think the only downside of Cubase for me is their pricing policies and their upgrade policies, and the fact that not all of their top end plugins come bundled with the Pro version. The Pro version to me is the top version, and it doesn't come bundled in. Another thing that I've also noticed about Cubase is they're now charging for their 0.5 upgrades as well, and I'll show you that in just a second. So their 0.5 tend to be just kind of maintenance releases, and they add just a couple of things normally, nothing too heavy. So to charge for a 0.5 is crazy. Looking at their tutorial section is great. They have a lot of intro tutorials, non-premium, so as soon as you've bought it, you can delve into their tutorials to help you learn it very, very quickly, which is great. So let's have a look at their pricing section. So let's go buy now, and I'll show you their upgrade policies. So here we go. You can buy Cubase 9.5, Cubase Artist or Cubase Elements, and they do vary. So let's just go to the Cubase Pro. I do tend to avoid the Artist and I do tend to avoid the Elements because I want the best for my students. I want to give them the biggest experience, and that is having everything. But if your budgets are low and you absolutely have to have Cubase, you might look at the Artist. So Cubase, let's have a look. So we left Cubase at version 6. So for us to buy our 20 licenses again, we're looking at £250. So we've got 20 units. So we're looking at £5,000 to go in there. So what, you know, £5,000, that's a whole suite almost, isn't it? I can buy 10 computers with that. That's a lot of money, you know. But there is an educational one actually, isn't there? Oh, actually, scrub that. I'm looking at the main versions. There is an educational suite. So if we look at it, it's not the most expensive DAW. £480 to buy it for the first time, but there is an educational one. Hold on, let me go to the educational because their prices are different and they are actually quite a bit lower. So you can buy it as a student educationally, or you can buy it as a teacher. So let's go to the teacher. So this is for your facility to buy, and I don't want to become a partner. And EduShop, there it is. Here we go, educational program, and here we go. So the upgrade, they don't do an upgrade pricing on this one. So you saw what the upgrade was, and I think, if I remember rightly, the last time we upgraded from the version 2 below, it was only about £100 or £98 or something like that. So to buy the full version, it's £300. So 20 of that, you're looking what, £6,000, something like that, to get started. So yeah, it's quite heavy. When you think Logic Pro is $199 to get started, I think you can get Logic Pro for £100 to get started as well. And the upgrade policy is not as heavy as that. So I'm not having to find £2 or £3 grand every second year to upgrade. And then if we scroll down, you'll see that we have their full versions here. So Groove Agent Educational 4, which Groove Agent is brilliant, but it's £100 per unit. So you're only allowed to install these on one. You have to buy the dongles as well. So, you know, straight away, there's another £2,000 there. Their Grand Piano, which is a fantastic kind of virtual piano. You got another 77 per unit. And where's their Hallian? Hallian 6 is almost £200. So to get the same, because, you know, if you look at Logic Pro comes built in with hypersonic. No, what am I thinking? What's their? I've gone blank. But it comes built in with a fully functional drum machine, which is awesome. Oh, that's going to annoy me. I've forgotten what it's called. And it also comes built in with a fully functional synthesizer, which is also, sampler, which is also awesome. So straight away, you know, if you bought this package and it comes built in with strings and all the rest of it, to buy all these, you know, you're looking at an extra £300. So this is where it starts to get slightly costly. And if Cubase are watching this and they're going, I hate this, you know, this is something you do need to think about. Schools cannot afford to buy that at that price. You need to start including it all, and we're all going to come back to you because we love Cubase. Okay, so signing off then, that's the kind of last bit from me. And I know most of that was all about financial costs and things. But when you're a school running 20 computers, and even 10, you know, when you start off, you'll probably only have 10, maybe even 5. And then you'll look to upgrade. It becomes very expensive. And when your DAW starts to be more expensive than your computers, it's like, well, come on. Something needs to give here. If you want the students to go forward and you want to use it in their professional environments, you need to make your pricing policies modern. You know, look at what everyone else is doing. The competition's stiff, and it would be very difficult for me to say, like, let's move away from Logic, even though the hardware, or the Mac hardware, is that much more expensive. It's like, well, in the long term, in my 10-year plan, if I'm only having to upgrade my Mac system every 5-6 years, and I'm only having to upgrade my Logic every 5-6 years, it becomes cheaper, and it brings my overheads right down, which means I can replenish my leads. It means I can replenish my microphones, which are the things that get broken the most. And it also means I can invest in modern technologies like hardware synths, hardware units, that tend to just last for forever, and plug in and whatever else, especially the old kind of analog ones, or the modern old analog ones, whatever you want to look at it. So I hope that was useful. I hope that's going to inform your decisions. If you like this format, please like and subscribe to our page. And we're going to kind of build up our YouTube channel here. We've kind of neglected it over the few years, but it's something that people have started to ask for and say, come on, the students want some kind of free content on YouTube. And we don't mind the adverts and all the rest of it. So we're going to build it up. We're trying to do at least one of these lessons a week. And we're going to look at more and more. So I hope you've enjoyed that. The next one we're going to look at is going to be BandLab it's called Cakewalk by BandLab. So that should be really interesting. So stay tuned, and we'll give you that in just a sec.